Get ready to be captivated by the story of Charles Sobhraj, the Serpent. He was a master of disguise and deception with the ability to enchant anyone and everyone. From petty crime to murder, Sobhraj's criminal career took him across continents and into the upper echelons of society. But how did this notorious killer evade capture for so long? Join us as we dive into the twisted mind of Charles Sobhraj and uncover the shocking truth about his life of crime. Who was Charles Sobhraj? Hachand Bhawani Gurmukh Sobhraj was born to an Indian father and Vietnamese mother on the 6th of April in 1944 in Saigon, Indo-Chinese Union. Being born on a French colonial territory makes Sobhraj eligible for French citizenship. His parents never wed and his father has disputed paternity. Sobhraj was adopted by his mother's second spouse, a lieutenant in the French army stationed in French Indochina. In 1959, the name Charles Gurmukh Sobhraj was recorded in church archives. He felt disregarded in his new family in favor of the couple's subsequent children. With this family, Sobhraj continued to travel between Southeast Asia and France. Sobhraj's early life, which he spent traveling between Indochina and France, was full of small crimes. In 1963, he was sent to jail for the first time for burglary. While jailed, he met a wealthy prison volunteer named Felix Descogne, with whom he moved in after his release. Sobhraj found himself able to shift smoothly between Paris's streetwise criminal brotherhood and the city's upper society, just as he had between continents. Becoming a social class chameleon was the foundation of his criminal career. He had the ability to enchant anybody and everyone. Sobhraj wed Chantal Compagnon, a young Parisian from a devoutly traditional family, in 1970. He and a pregnant Compagnon traveled to Asia, engaging in minor crime and getting by, robbing travelers and using stolen passports. His criminal activity expanded once he arrived, covering everything from car smuggling to armed robbery. As a result, he was no stranger to the interior of a jail cell, but he was also no stranger to designing an escape plot. On many occasions, he feigned sickness in order to be sent to the hospital, claiming to have appendicitis or vomiting fake blood. In Kabul, Sobhraj once poisoned the medical guard assigned to his room and simply left the facility. Sobhraj developed the capacity to take advantage of the confidence of those close to him. After his most recent jailbreak, he fled to Iran, deserting his wife, who was forced to return to her family in Paris. He then spent a couple of years on the run across Eastern Europe and the Middle East, aided by his half-brother. But when the pair were arrested in Athens, Sobhraj switched identities to escape. His younger sibling was eventually sentenced to 2 years and 10 months in jail. By the time he carried out his first murder, Sobhraj had teamed up with a young Indian man, Ajay Chowdhury. Their first victim was Teresa Knowlton, a backpacker from Seattle who was found drowned in a tidal pool in the Gulf of Thailand in 1975. When a future victim was discovered wearing a bikini, Sobhraj earned one of his nicknames, the Bikini Killer. In Thailand, where he pretended to be a drug dealer and a gem salesperson, Sobhraj met Marie-André Leclerc, a French-Canadian traveler who became his most dedicated partner. The second victim was Vitaly Hakim, a visitor whose burned body was discovered near the resort where Sobhraj and Leclerc were staying. 2 Dutch students followed, and their bodies were discovered, strangled and burned. Then there was the finding of Charmaine Corot's body, Hakim's lover who had traveled to Thailand to investigate his disappearance. Sobhraj and Leclerc had fled to Nepal, where they met and murdered 2 North American backpackers before traveling to India and returning to Thailand. By this time, a few of Sobhraj and Leclerc's colleagues in Thailand accused them of the murders and alerted authorities before fleeing to France. Sobhraj, Leclerc, and Chowdhury traveled together to Singapore and then India, where they murdered Israeli tourist Alan Aaron Jacobs for no apparent reason other than to steal his passport. They returned to Bangkok in the spring of '76, ignorant that Sobhraj was now sought. However, after being questioned by police, He was released, with Thai officials evidently wanting to prevent the terrible impact that a murder trial might have on tourism. How did Sobhraj evade capture? Chaudhuri was never seen again when the trio departed Thailand for Malaysia, with the notion that Sobhraj had murdered him for fear of his misdeeds being uncovered. Sobhraj and Leclerc continued their journeys, posing as jewel salesmen in Switzerland and India. Sobhraj ultimately got caught in New Delhi after killing another person in Bombay. The audacity of this latest sting was his undoing. Having tricked a 60-strong group of French postgraduate students into taking anti-dysentery medication with the intention of robbing them all while they were unconscious, Sobhraj miscalculated the doses. When some of the students were quickly and violently sick, the group realized their friend had ulterior motives and overpowered him before calling the police. Sobhraj was assigned to Tihar prison in New Delhi, but he immediately went on the charm offensive. He had smuggled some jewels into the jail, which he used to pay prison guards and secure his comfort. He also made his trial a spectacle by going on hunger strike and arbitrarily hiring and firing his legal staff. He was sentenced to 12 years in jail for attempted robbery. Sobhraj continued to live comfortably in jail with his own television set and exquisite eating. His ability to win the approval and trust of people was undiminished, but after 10 years inside, Sobhraj was in a pickle. While he was imprisoned, the murders he committed in Thailand were exhaustively probed, particularly by a Dutch ambassador, Herman Nippenberg, who had been charged with discovering what had happened to the two Dutch students. Nippenberg discovered a pile of passports and driver's licenses after raiding Sobhraj's residence, implying that Sobhraj's victims were far more numerous than those recognized. Realizing that he faced near-certain conviction and thus execution, in Thailand, Sobhraj hatched a plan. With 2 years left on his sentence, he threw a party in his New Delhi jail for officers and inmates, at which he drugged all the partygoers with sleeping pills and simply walked out of the prison again. He then hid in plain sight before being arrested in a Goa restaurant shortly thereafter. His sentence was prolonged by 10 years as a result of his escape, exactly as he had intended. The Thai authorities' 20-year arrest warrant had expired by the time he was released in 1997. He could no longer be prosecuted with all of the murders in Thailand. Where is Charles Sobhraj today? After being granted his freedom, Sobhraj went back to Paris, where he had become something of an odd celebrity. However, he decided that this life did not provide him with enough excitement, so he decided to return to the risky situation. In 2003, he traveled to Nepal, and as he was walking around Kathmandu, he was recognized for the murders he committed in '75 against the two North American trekkers. As a result, he was taken into custody. After being found guilty, he was given a life sentence, and he's still serving his time in that facility to this day. Even if it was proved that he was not the invincible figure that he thought he was, Charles Sobhraj never for a moment questioned either himself or his reasoning for doing what he was doing. When he looked back over the chaos and destruction he caused, he once said, "I can justify the killings to myself." He left behind a trail of mayhem and destruction. I never killed good people. That's all for this video. I hope you liked it. If you did, like, share, and subscribe to see more. Until then, take care, and thanks for watching.